morning, sir. Swear with me. Pray with me, even if you don't believe. Smile for me, baby, please. Smile. I want to be the one. Your weakness, baby. Break my heart, oh. Sing for me, even though your voice is cracked. Dance with me, even if you're dancing off the beat. Take a chance on me, don't you believe I'm worth the kiss? Smile for me, baby me. Smile. The one way you. Okay, that was Simi, and that one says "Smile for me." Okay, good morning, everyone. Wherever you're joining me from, and good evening for those of you in America and Canada, North America generally. Good morning for those of you in Africa, specifically Nigeria. Good morning, my 3 a.m. club people. So good to have come your way again. This is Pfthinks from Praise for International Studio, Lagos, Nigeria. How are you today? Well, we thank God for his grace and his wisdom. Thank God for all he has done for us. Is another week, and we are grateful. Now, we're still talking about common mistakes married men make, and this today should be like 5 or 6 thereabout. And we taking the mistake, taking R for granted. So far, we've looked at about 4 different mistakes. Today is the 5th one, and this one is taking R for granted. How many times have you taking your wives for granted, and what have you taken for granted in her? Right? I know the couples take themselves for granted. Even wives sometimes take their husbands for granted. I mean, we take things for granted, like, oh, maybe he's able to pay rent. We take it for granted. We say it's his responsibility. He pays school fees. We say it's his responsibility. These are things that we take for granted because eventually, when he doesn't have the capacity to pay, we will know how far. Anyway, so I love a quote that I found, which says, even the strongest feelings expire when ignored and taken for granted. Even the strongest feelings expire when you ignore it or when you take it for granted. That is, when no matter how much someone loves you, no matter how much they respect, they want to be with you, the strongest feelings will expire when you ignore them or you take them for granted. Now, how many times have you lived your life by the mantra, it's a man's world, so that makes you live life anyhow, even as a husband, right? Many of us take the fact that someone accepted your proposal to get married to you for granted. We take for granted the fact that your wife has got a choice. She is a human being and she can activate a choice to walk out of your life. But we take it for granted. We think, oh, she has nowhere to go. So we take a life for granted. We do things anyhow because in our mind, we do not believe that she can leave us. We just think, oh, what's so spectacular? If she leaves, another woman will come. But you see, I have met too many men who have neglected their spouse's needs for affection, romance, communication, and care simply because they believe it's not possible for her to cheat on me. Amen. I mean, when I sit with men, they say things like, I know my wife can never cheat. I know my wife can never cheat. I am the one who can do all these things. My wife can never do all these things. You forget your wife is a human being. Your wife, if she's beautiful, men will make passes at her. And if she says no to them, it's out of respect for you or out of respect for our marital vows. So when you ignore your spouse's needs for affection, romance, and communication, you expose her and she becomes very vulnerable. I have sat with women in counseling whose husband has not touched them in the last 1 year. I have sat with women who have not had sex in 15 years. And I'm very serious about it. Simply because the man will just not have sex with them and it's not saying anything, right? And the man doesn't expect her to cheat or doesn't expect her to leave, right? So you can imagine the burden such women are carrying. So a lot of men, you make love to your job, you make love to your contract, you make love to other babes, your laptops, your mobile phones, except your wife. As a matter of fact, there are men who have never touched their wives, like I said, in the last 8 months, some of them 15 years, because of their addiction to pornography. And then some of them are manifesting erectile dysfunctioning induced by masturbation. Now, here are a couple of facts that might interest you as a husband. Number one, taking your wife for granted is a show of lack of respect and regard for a person. That when you take your wife's feelings, when you take her humanity, when you take her magnanimity for granted, it's a lack of respect and regard for a person. When you feel, you know what, it doesn't matter if I don't sleep with her, she's not going to leave me. You are taking her for granted. It shows lack of respect, right? When you take her needs for granted, she says, oh, I need to change your wardrobe, and you do not think, what she's saying makes sense, right? It's a show of lack of respect and regard for a person. Some of these men, you give money to outsiders, you give money to other side chicks, but when it comes to your wife, you become tight-fisted. It's lack of respect and regard for someone that accepted your proposal when you were nobody. Now, number two, your wife feels incomplete and less than herself when she feels taken for granted. A lot of women are manifesting low self-esteem. Some of them are manifesting depression because a lot of their men fail to nurture them, right? Your wife feels incomplete and less than herself when she feels taken for granted. As a matter of fact, she can lose a total self-respect and total self-confidence, that she stops taking care of herself simply because she feels my husband is not complimenting me. He's not even looking at me. No matter how well I dress, he says nothing. He just walks past me. When I make a new hair, she doesn't know. When I buy a new dress, he's not even aware. He's married to his job. He's married to his laptop. He's married to other side chicks. He's married to, pornography. He's married to masturbation. The only person he's not married to is me, right? Number three, being taken for granted by someone you love can lead to extreme bitterness, which can lead to depression and in some cases, cancer. It's been proven that some of the cancer cases is as a result of unforgiveness. Now, unforgiveness, deep-seated hurt, deep-seated pain that is induced by a husband who is refused, to appreciate the care, the shift your wife puts in. Now, being taken for granted by someone you love can lead to extreme bitterness, right? So when someone has given a life to you, she's given a career, she's given a name, she's given everything and money to you, then you abandon that person and go run away with someone else in the name of she's no longer appealing, or she doesn't look the part, right? Meanwhile, everything that you call the wear and tear in the body is as a result of carrying your seed and nurturing it to grooming your children, right? And that's what is responsible for the wear and tear in her body, right? That she even doesn't really take care of herself. I mean, that's not an excuse that women should not take care of themselves, but a woman who has had 4 children in 4 years, right? How well can she be sane enough to take care of herself? Some of them are battling with postpartum depression, right? And you are not aware. You don't even understand that, right? And yet you are all over everywhere, right? With the only person you don't want to be with is your wife. Now, you need to understand that many of them, they're battling with extreme bitterness. Many of them are battling with depression because they feel your absence. They look at you and they feel used and they are dumped. Now, taking your wife for granted, right? Too many wives are carrying a needless burden that could have been prevented with a bit of appreciation from us. When was the last time you appreciated your wife? When was the last time you looked at her and you told her, wow, you look good? When was the last time you did a change of wardrobe? When was the last time you bought her a gift? When was the last time, right, you allowed her rest and go for vacation, right? While you took responsibilities for raising the kids or cooking the meals. When was the last time you did all these things, right? I say to men, you are not qualified to pass a judgment on the path you have never walked. your best effort to experience being a wife will still end you up as a man. So when men talk sometimes and say to their wife, what is it that you are doing? Excuse me, have you ever had menstruation before? Do you understand what it means to have menstrual cramp? You can never figure it out. You can never experience it. Your best attempt to experience it will end in theory. You will still be a man because you do not know. The only thing you know is how to release semen. You do not know what it feels, right? For you to go through blood flow, through that flow, monthly flow, you don't understand at all. Have you been through pregnancy before? Have you carried pregnancy for 9 months? Do you know what it means for another human being to grow in your body? You can never understand it. Your best attempt to understand it will still end you up being a man. Do you understand what it means to go through cesarean section or to go through normal natural delivery? Do you understand what it means? Do you know what it means to go through IVF? The injection she takes in her body. Some of the women have had 7 failed IVFs. She's no longer normal as a result of the artificial things passed into her, right? Do you know what it means for her to not to have a child, and for church people to say those believing God for the fruit of barren women should come forward, right? When you are the one who has the problem, she's standing for prayers for you, and you are sitting down there. Do you know the shame? Do you know what it means for her to go through pain with your family members? Do you understand the disgrace, the shame, the putting down from your family people, from the society? Do you know how much she gets talked down? Do you know what she's battling with? You cannot understand this thing. So as a man or as a husband, you are not qualified to pass a judgment on the path you have never walked. You have never carried a baby. You have never breastfed a child before. You know what it means? I mean, let us try and bite your breast a little bit to have a clue of what it means when a woman breastfeeds a child and sometimes she snaps and you are wondering, why are you snapping? You have no clue. And that's why you cannot judge what you do not understand. Now, I love what King Solomon says, that he that finds a wife, which means the help that only God could have supplied, finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. He that finds a wife, which means a wife is the word Isa, which is the kind of help that only God could have supplied. When you find a wife, you have found a good thing and you have obtained favor from the Lord. Do you understand the good that you found? Do you know the favor that comes with finding a wife? Now, here are things that we take for granted as men. And this morning, I want to say to our women that we are indeed sorry for taking you for granted. Now, here are things we take for granted. One, the stress she goes through to fix meals. I know men who never cook, right? Some of us cook, some never cook. So we take for granted the stress she goes through to fix meals. When I was younger, every time my dad complained about salt is too much, pepper is too much, I look at the man, and I'm like, are you for real? Right? Because you can't cook as the last time I checked, right? So there was a time my mother was posted and I was alone with my dad and I quickly had to go to school that early morning. And my father was trying to fry egg and he struggled to fry egg, right? So when I came back and he was telling me the egg was not rising, I laughed at him and I said to him, Dad, but you used to complain when mom was around that, there's too much pepper in this, because a lot of us take for granted the stress your wife goes through. She's not a cook. Remember that. She was not hired to be a cook. She's not a chef. So she goes out of the call of duty. She goes out of her area of competence to fix meals, not just for you, for family. Your family members come, she fixes a meal for them. We take that for granted, right? Number two, do you know how she's able to do the impossible with the limited funds you make available? I mean, I was very close to my mom growing up. I know how much my dad drops. My dad is a responsible man, but I know how much it drops monthly. I know that money is not enough. But my mother manages to weave a magic, right? A lot of women, the magic they perform to make food available is beyond what a man understands, right? Especially if you are the kind of man who never goes to the market. I go to the market, so I understand, right? So you want to eat 5 meats, you want to eat 3 meats, you feel insulted when they serve you with 1 meat. Do you understand how much what you're dropping as upkeep, how far it can go? Some of the things you're dropping cannot last beyond 10 days. But these women make food available for 31 days, right? I think we need to say thank you to our wives out there. She does the impossible with the limited funds you make available. She has to, adjust herself, deprive herself of so many things just to ensure that that miracle happens. I understand there are some other women who they have a lot more and they even loot their husband. We're not talking about those kind of wives. We're talking about selfless wives, right? Who do the impossible with the available funds. Number three, do you know that we take for granted that conception and what she goes through during pregnancy? That your wife is pregnant, she still has to fix meals. Your wife is pregnant, she still has to give you sex. Your wife is pregnant, she still has to do dishes, do all kinds of things, do the cleaning of the house. She's carrying a baby, her tummy is protruding, but she has to bend down to mop. And you do nothing, you hold the remote control and you flip the channel and you are saying to her, is it not just pregnancy? Excuse me, man, have you ever been pregnant? You do not understand what it means to be pregnant and go to work. I mean, when my wife was pregnant, we didn't have a car way back. I know several times I had to walk her to a particular place and we had to get an Okada. Thank God for when we eventually got a car, I had to go pick her. You do not understand what it means to be pregnant and get an Okada. I see pregnant women get on Okada. Okada is motorbike if you're not from Nigeria. I see pregnant women get into public transport. I see some of them rush. I see some of them in the marketplace. I see some of them at work, right? They still have to be saying another human being is growing inside of them. We take that for granted at conception and what she goes through during pregnancy. She's having cramp. She's not feeling like herself, but we expect her to perform miracle. We get upset, and the things that upset her. We get upset when she throws up and you are wondering, she's messing up your house. Excuse me, man, it's the baby you're planted in her that is messing up her sanity. Because without her pregnancy, she wouldn't be trained up. We take for granted a conception and what she goes through during pregnancy. Let me tell you, announce to you, you can never understand it. Don't tell your wife, I know how you feel. You do not know what she feels. You do not know to what it means for a penis to enter your vagina. You've never had a vagina before. You do not understand what it feels for semen to be implanted into you, for a baby to grow inside of you. You have no clue at all. So never say you understand what she feels. You do not, right? Then we take for granted our ability to multitask, to attend to kids while trying to be sane. Some of our wives are going to school. Some of them are taking care of kids at the same time. Some of them are still trying to work. They are doing all kinds of things. It can make any human being go mad. So she multitasks to attend to kids. She multitasks to prepare food, to make money, to support the family, right? We take these things for granted. We take for granted our ability to forgive our unfaithfulness while we are unwilling to forgive the same. I see a lot of men whose wives has forgiven them. I work a lot with troubled marriages. I see a man, there was a man I was working with whose wife has caught him. The man has cheated on his wife 11 times. 11 times he had cheated. Now the woman, out of bitterness, she went to cheat on him. Right? And this man, all hell was let loose. He said, I cannot forgive her. I cannot forgive. Infidelity is the only thing I can't forgive. I looked at him and I said, excuse me, sir, are you for real? 11 times you cheated on her, right? 11 over 1. This is 11-1. And you are saying this from your mouth, right? You want to cast a stone? That your life is a definition of infidelity. Right? So a lot of us, we take for granted our ability to forgive our unfaithfulness. So we live in a culture that expects a wife to forgive infidelity, but a wife is not forgiving when God goes out of order, right? We need to come to terms with some of these things and, be humble as men to accept that we have not dealt very well with this woman, right? That she forgives you. We must never take it for granted. She can walk out on you. She can leave you. She can collapse, crash everything you guys have built, but she sees it in herself to forgive. I think we need to say thank you to many of these women who go through a lot of stress, emotional stress, that she had to look at herself, compare herself, am I not good enough, and all these things that is going through her head. Now, do we take for granted the stress of handling difficult in-laws? The stress of handling in-laws. If your siblings are good, then congratulations to your wife. Some women don't have it that good. Siblings come in. I know siblings who have come to beat up a wife and the husband did nothing. Your mother comes in and makes her life miserable, and you are there, you say, it's mommy. You are not standing up for her. Do you take for granted the stress of handling difficult in-laws? of having to cook for an entire family, of having to pretend as if you guys are rich when you are not rich, of having to squeeze money into your hand while your family members think you are the one making provisions available. Meanwhile, she's actually the breadwinner. Do you take for granted the fact that some of these women have fed your family in the last 10 years? They've consistently stood in for you, covered your shame, but here you are taking it for granted. Do we take for granted the intelligence that resides in our unutilized? Your wife has a lot of brain. She's very intelligent, but that intelligence is not used by you because you are living with the mantra, it's a man's word, it's a man's word. I am the head of the family. Excuse me? Your wife has a solution to the critical problem you're going through, but you are not involving her because you want to prove your manhood. Excuse me, a manhood that cannot deliver, is that one manhood? Right? There is no shame in allowing your wife take the lead in an area of competence, in an area of expertise. You go to the hospital, you tender your bum for the nurse to inject you, right? But your wife is a medical practitioner. You wouldn't listen to her. A woman was telling me the other day that, her son was sick, right? And she was trying, and she's a pediatrician, and she was trying to, attend to the boy. And her husband got upset, say, "You will need to take the boy to the hospital." Then they got to the hospital, right? And she was still the one that showed our colleagues what to do. And she said she just went to a corner and started crying, right? Because her husband literally disgraced her because he doesn't trust her competence, right? Do we take for granted, and we take for granted the intelligence that resides in your wife unutilized, right? Do we take for granted depriving her of sexual satisfaction? Many of us, right, we deprive our wives of our body, right? So you are married to your job, married to your laptop, married to side chicks, married to the old world, married to your calling, married to your vision, married to your phone, right? Married to WhatsApp and chat and counseling. The only person you're not married to is your wife, right? So you cannot even have sex with your wife. Like I said, I have seen men who have not had sex with their wife in 15 years, right? Yet the woman is not saying anything. She's covering him up, right? Now, we take these things for granted. I always say to our men, depriving your wife of your body is a fraudulent transaction that requires immediate arrest by FBI. Apostle Paul of Tarsus said that do not defraud yourself of each other's body. It's a fraudulent transaction when your wife cannot have access to your body. Now, this morning, what do we need to do to right this wrong? And all of us have to do this today, including me. Number one, you need to make a list of 10 things you are grateful for about your wife and send 10 love notes to her today on each of them, right? So you're going to send out 10 love notes on 10 things to be grateful for about your wife. All of you men listening to me, and if you're listening to this after this broadcast, you need to do this today. Some of us were nothing when we met our wives, right? All we had was a dream. All we had was faith, vision. That was all you saw. And she was stupid enough, in quote, to accept you for lack of nothing, no car, nothing, right? And now you have all those things and you feel, it's time to take a second wife, or she's no longer in vogue and you are depriving her of what you have. Excuse me, today, make a list of 10 things you are grateful for about your wife and send 10 love notes to her today on each of them. Number two, you need to flaunt a picture today and let the whole world know how vital she has been to you. You need to flaunt a picture, right? I mean, when I see men who cannot put up the picture of their wives on their DP, they hide their wives, right? If you have dealt with your wife anyhow, yeah, that's why you are hiding a picture. If your wife is a babe, if she's still a chick, right, you will gladly flaunt a picture as your trophy, in quote, right? So flaunt a picture today. Let the whole world know how vital she's been to you. I know men who hide the picture of their wife, and pretend that they are single in the workplace. Number three, reflect on who you were when you met and who you have become. What do you used to wear? Where do you used to eat? What was your shape? Can you pick your picture before you got married to her and see what you look like? You look like ancient men, alien men. What were you wearing, right? What did you have before you met her compared to what you have right now? Maybe you will say, oh, you no longer have the money you used to have, but now you have children. Your children are doing well. They are going to school. They are growing, right? That's addition to your life, right? So reflect on who you were when you met and who you have become. Number four, Apologize for whatever you may have done wrong that hurts your wife today. Apologize for the areas you may have taken her for granted. Apologize, right? Any part of her that hurts her, say you're sorry, right? I am sorry is a word for the strong. It's not a word for the weak. The weak are the ones who cannot say they are sorry. If you are a man and you are above, I am sorry. I'm sorry to use this word. You have outgrown the system, which means you are more or less like a beast. You must learn to say you are sorry, right? Ask her for what she would really want you to assist with henceforth and start to do it. If she says to you, sweetheart, I want you to begin to help with the kitchen, you need to gladly do it. It's service to your family. If she says, sweetheart, I want you to help us mop the floor, it is service to your family. And let me tell you, when you do it, you send the signal to your boy on what it means to be a proper man. You send the signal to your children on what it means to be a responsible head of the family. These are the things we need to do. We have taken these women for granted too long, and today is the day to put a stop to it and start to appreciate them. The real person that loves you isn't the one that showed up when you already have a car and you have some money to throw around. The real love of your life was the one that accepted you when there was nothing and had enough faith to stick to you against our parents' counsel and against all earth. Never take a sincerity and a devotion to you for granted. Let me tell you again, your wife can walk away. She's a human being. Maybe when she walks away, you will see how exposed you are, right? She's a custodian of your secret. She sees the part of you that the whole world never sees. The whole world is clapping for you. One broadcast, she can mess you up, right? But she has accommodated you, and you have no right to take her for granted. I love a quote I read yesterday. It says, never take someone for granted. Hold every person close to your heart, because you might wake up one day and realize that you've lost a diamond while you were too busy collecting stones. Never take someone for granted. Hold every person close to your heart, because you might wake up one day to realize that you have lost a diamond while you were too busy collecting stones. I have seen men in the second marriage, third marriages who say to me the first woman was better, right? Because the new people are loving you. They are loving you for your car, loving you for your bank account. They couldn't have loved you when you had nothing, right? The person who loved you, who loves you, was the person who was with you when you had nothing. And don't lose that diamond in your pursuit of stones or bronze or whatsoever, right? A lot of us never appreciate our wives until they are dead or we are divorced, right? That is when you now know that, oh, this is what this woman was doing for me, right? A lot of you, what you need to do, can you even experience what it means to be a woman for 1 week? What you need to do is let your wife stop everything she does for the family and you take over. Take over the children's assignment, take over the children's cooking and cook for the family, still go to work, right? Come back from work tired and let her make love to you the same way you are always asking for sex, right? Mop the house, clean the house, and think all she's thinking. Let me tell you, man, you will go mad after 24 hours. How these women do these things is amazing. I know it's part of the gift from God to them. And that is why we need to praise our wives. We need to appreciate them on behalf of every man across the globe. On behalf of every husband this morning, I say we're sorry for how badly we have treated you. I apologize on behalf of all the men listening to me and all the men that will still listen to this, to all the wives listening to this broadcast. We are so sorry for taking you for granted. We're so sorry for taking for granted the fact that you carried pregnancies, you delivered, you went through the valley of the shadow of death to deliver the baby, and you had to still raise those children yourself. We are so sorry. We love you, we appreciate you, and we promise to stop taking you for granted. It's a major mistake married men make. Never take for granted that someone left our father's house, dropped a name to come and be with you, right? And now use your tongue to talk her down, to mess her up. No way. We need to get back to who we should be and say we're sorry and use our words and our entire resources to nurture our spouses for them to become the best they can ever be. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you tomorrow, God's willing. Till then, keep loving and keep living. I honor you and I celebrate you. Have a fantastic day. Bye bye.